The silver ship appeared in Earth's sky like a falling star that refused to fall. Captain Amy Brooks stood on the observation deck of the orbital station, watching the alien vessel approach with careful eyes. 50 years had passed since humans first detected strange signals from beyond their solar system. But this was different. This was first contact. The ship was beautiful in a way that made human technology look like crude metal boxes. Its surface flowed like liquid mercury, and lights danced across its hull in patterns that seemed almost alive. Amy had spent 20 years in Earth's space program, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The communication came through in perfect English, which surprised everyone in the control room. A voice spoke with the tone of someone addressing a child. "Greetings, inhabitants of the third planet. We are representatives of the Galactic Council. We come in peace to welcome you to the greater community of intelligent life." Amy took a deep breath and activated the response channel. "This is Captain Amy Brooks of Earth's Unified Space Command. We welcome you to our system and look forward to peaceful contact." There was a pause, then what sounded like soft laughter. "How charming. We shall dock with your primitive station and conduct the formal introduction ceremony. Please prepare your most senior representatives." The docking process took 3 hours. The alien ship attached itself to the station with technology that seemed to bend space around it. Amy watched through the viewports as figures in flowing robes emerged from the vessel. They moved with grace that spoke of centuries of refinement. The first alien to enter the station was tall and elegant, with silver hair that fell past her shoulders and eyes the color of emeralds. Her skin had a faint, luminous quality, and she wore robes that shifted color as she moved. Behind her came others of different species, each more impressive than the last. "I am Counselor Zarathiel of the High Elven Courts," the silver-haired being announced. "I speak for the Galactic Council in this first meeting with your species." Her voice carried an accent that suggested vast age and accumulated wisdom. Amy stepped forward, wearing her best dress uniform. "Welcome to Earth, Counselor. We are honored by your visit." Zarathiel's eyes swept over the human delegation with what appeared to be mild disappointment. "Yes, well, we shall proceed with the ceremony despite the circumstances." She gestured to one of her companions, a younger elf with auburn hair and proud bearing. "This is Princess Veltara, heir to the Silverleaf dynasty." The princess looked around the station with barely concealed disdain. "How quaint," she said in a voice like crystal bells. "Do you actually live in these metal containers?" Amy felt the insult, but maintained her diplomatic composure. "Our stations serve their purpose well. We look forward to learning from your advanced civilization." Another alien stepped forward, this one with blue-black scales that caught the light like polished armor. "I am Admiral Kev-Ara of the Draconian Fleet," she announced in a voice that rumbled with suppressed power. "We understand you have achieved basic spaceflight. How many star systems do you control?" "We have explored our local system and established colonies on 3 worlds," Amy replied. The aliens exchanged glances that Amy did not like. Admiral Kevara made a sound that might have been amusement. "3 worlds in how many of your years?" "We began serious space exploration about 70 years ago," Amy answered, sensing the conversation was not going well. The third alien was the strangest yet, appearing to be made of living crystal with internal lights that pulsed like a heartbeat. "I am Dr. Nix Andra of the Crystalline Collective," she said in a voice like wind chimes. "Your species achieved spaceflight 70 years ago and has managed to colonize 3 worlds? How remarkably slow." Princess Veltara laughed openly at this. "Perhaps they are still learning to walk upright," she said to her companions, causing more laughter among the alien delegation. Amy felt her jaw tighten but forced herself to remain calm. "We may be new to space, but humans are quick learners. Given time and opportunity, we will surprise you." Counselor Zarathiel raised one elegant hand for silence. "Time, yes, you have mentioned time several times. We understand your species lives for perhaps 100 of your years at most. How do you expect to accomplish anything meaningful with such brief existences?" "We pass knowledge to our children," Amy replied. "Each generation builds on what came before. Like insects, Dr. Nixandra observed clinically, brief individual lives compensated for by rapid reproduction and collective memory. The comparison stung, but Amy kept her voice level. Perhaps you might share some of your knowledge with us. We would be grateful for the opportunity to learn. The aliens looked at each other again, and Amy caught sight of expressions that ranged from amusement to pity. Admiral Kevara spoke first. Your species shows aggressive tendencies. We have observed your recent conflicts and weapons testing. Advanced technology in the hands of a warlike race could be dangerous. We fight among ourselves sometimes, Amy admitted, but we also work together. Our space program is a joint effort by all Earth's nations. Princess Veltara examined her fingernails with exaggerated boredom. How noble, like children sharing toys until they grow tired of playing nice. Counselor Zarathiel stepped closer. To Amy, and the human could smell something like starlight and ancient forests. Captain Brooks, your species is young and shows some promise. The Galactic Council is prepared to offer Earth protected status as a developing world. What does that mean exactly? Amy asked. It means you will be shielded from harmful influences while you mature as a civilization, Zarathiel explained, in the tone of an adult explaining something to a slow child. Trade will be limited to prevent cultural contamination. Technology transfer will be restricted to avoid disrupting your natural development. Most importantly, human vessels will be prohibited from entering council space without escort, Amy felt her heart sink. So we would be isolated. Protected, the counselor corrected. Until such time as your species demonstrates the wisdom and restraint necessary for full membership in galactic society. And how long might that take? Amy asked. Princess Veltara spoke up with a cruel smile. Oh, perhaps 1,000 years or so, if you survive that long without destroying yourselves. The formal ceremony continued for another hour, with each alien species presenting gifts that seemed more like curiosities one might give to an interesting pet. Amy accepted them all with grace, while inside she burned with humiliation and growing anger. As the aliens prepared to leave, Counselor Zarathiel made one final pronouncement. Earth will be granted observer status in the Council. You may send a single representative to attend sessions and observe the workings of civilized government. Thank you, Amy said, though the words tasted bitter. The aliens departed as smoothly as they had arrived, leaving behind only the memory of their casual cruelty and the bitter taste of being found wanting. Amy stood alone on the observation deck, watching their ship disappear into the darkness between stars. She activated her communication system and sent a message to Earth Command. First contact complete. Recommend immediate implementation of Project Prometheus. We have been underestimated, and that may prove to be their greatest mistake. 15 years had passed since the humiliation at first contact, and Earth had changed in ways the Galactic Council could never have imagined. Admiral Amy Brooks, now bearing the scars of countless battles against her own species' limitations, stood in the command center of Luna Base, watching her newest creation take shape in the void beyond. The ship looked nothing like the elegant alien vessels that had mocked humanity. Where their craft flowed like art, this one was built like a weapon wrapped in armor. Every line spoke of function over beauty, of necessity over grace. Its hull bore no decorative elements, only sensor arrays, weapon mounts, and the angular geometry of deflection plating. Commander Lisa Kane floated beside her in the zero-gravity observation dome, reviewing data streams on her tablet. At 29, she was the youngest person ever to command a deep space reconnaissance mission, but her eyes held the weight of secrets that would terrify the Council if they knew. The quantum drives are responding perfectly, Lisa reported, in a voice that carried the quiet confidence of someone who had spent years preparing for this moment. We can reach the edge of Council space in 3 weeks without using any of their hyperlane networks. Amy nodded, remembering the day 15 years ago when Earth's brightest minds had gathered in hidden facilities around the world. Project Prometheus had been born from humiliation and fed by human stubbornness. If the Council wanted to keep humanity isolated, then humanity would use that isolation to become something the galaxy had never seen before. The work had been slow at first. Earth's scientists had only fragments of alien technology to study, gathered from sensor readings during first contact, but humans had always been good at making something from nothing. They took those fragments and built theories, then tested. those theories until they became facts. Lisa's reconnaissance ships were proof of how far they had come. Each vessel carried technology that the Council believed impossible for a species as young as humanity. Quantum entanglement communicators allowed instant contact across any distance. Adaptive artificial intelligence systems learned from every encounter and shared that knowledge instantly with the entire fleet. Most importantly, they had solved the problem of faster-than-light travel without using the Council's hyperlane network. "Any word from Scout Team 7? Amy asked. Lisa consulted her tablet again. "They completed their survey of the Draxi system yesterday. Admiral Kevara's fleet maintains a standard patrol pattern with no variation for the past 6 months. They still believe their space is unwatched." Amy smiled grimly. The draconian admiral who had called humanity primitive would be shocked to learn that human eyes had been watching her fleet for 3 years. Every ship movement, every communication protocol, every tactical formation had been carefully recorded and studied. The reconnaissance program had begun accidentally when a human deep space probe had wandered into the edge of Council territory. Instead of being detected and destroyed as expected, the probe had remained invisible to their sensors. Human technology, built without knowledge of alien detection methods, operated on frequencies and principles that Council systems simply ignored. Lisa had been the first to realize the implications. If Council sensors could not detect human technology, then humans could go anywhere and see everything. She had proposed a systematic surveillance program that would map every Council world, study every alien species, and learn the weaknesses of every potential enemy. Amy had approved the program immediately. Earth might be isolated, but they would not be blind. The results had been fascinating and disturbing in equal measure. The Galactic Council was not the united civilization it appeared to be. Species maintained their own territories and interests, cooperating only when necessary. The High Elves controlled trade and diplomacy, but relied on other species for military protection. The Draconians provided security, but hungered for the political power the Elves hoarded. The Crystalline Collective advanced science, but cared nothing for the concerns of organic life. Most importantly, the Council's technology had not advanced significantly in centuries. They had reached a plateau of development and grown comfortable with their achievements. Innovation came slowly, if at all, because there was no pressure to improve. Humanity faced that pressure every day. Cut off from galactic civilization, they had to solve every problem themselves. They could not trade for better technology or call for help when disasters struck. Every challenge demanded a new solution, and every solution made them stronger. The difference showed in their spacecraft. Council ships were built to last centuries, using materials and methods perfected over millennia. They were reliable, but predictable. Human ships were designed to be replaced within decades as technology improved. They were experimental, adaptive, and constantly evolving. Amy walked to another viewport where she could see the shipyards of Luna Base. Hundreds of vessels in various stages of construction filled the space around the moon. To alien eyes, they would look like crude metal assemblies, but each one represented innovations that pushed the boundaries of known science. The asteroid mining ships used gravitational manipulation to move rocks the size of mountains. The colony vessels carried populations in suspended animation, using techniques that preserved human life for decades without aging. The research stations operated at temperatures approaching absolute zero to study quantum effects that Council science had dismissed as impossible. Most secret of all were the warships. Amy had hoped they would never be necessary, but 15 years of watching the galaxy had taught her that peace was temporary and conflict inevitable. When that time came, humanity would be ready. "Admiral," Lisa said, breaking into her thoughts, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command." Amy activated the communication system, and President Martinez appeared on the screen. The woman who led Earth's unified government looked tired, but her eyes held the same determination that had driven humanity since first contact. "Admiral Brooks," the president said without preamble, "our listening posts have detected unusual activity in the Outer Rim territories. Ships of unknown configuration are moving toward Council space. We need eyes on this situation immediately." Amy exchanged glances with Lisa. Unknown ships in Council space could mean many things, but none of them were good. "Understood, Madam President." Commander Kane can have a reconnaissance force deployed within hours. Do it, Martinez replied. And Amy, if this is what we think it might be, the Council is going to need help whether they want it or not. The DES transmission ended, leaving Amy and Lisa alone with the implications. For years, they had prepared for the day when humanity might be called upon to prove its worth. That day might be approaching faster than anyone had expected. Lisa was already calling up star charts and deployment schedules. I can have 3 ships ready in 6 hours, she said. Fast scouts with full stealth capabilities and enough firepower to handle anything short of a battle fleet. Make it 4 ships, Amy decided. And Lisa, make sure they understand the rules of engagement. We watch, we learn, but we do not reveal ourselves unless absolutely necessary. As Lisa departed to prepare the mission, Amy remained at the viewport, looking out at the ships that carried humanity's hopes and fears. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, danger was approaching the same aliens who had mocked Earth's potential. Soon, the galaxy would learn what humanity had become during its years of isolation. The Council had wanted to protect the galaxy from human aggression. Instead, they had created something far more dangerous, humans, with nothing left to lose and everything to prove. The first sign of disaster came as a whisper in the quantum foam that separated dimensions. Deep space monitoring stations at the galaxy's edge detected gravitational anomalies that defied explanation. Space itself seemed to bend and twist as something massive pushed through barriers that had held for 1,000 years. Counselor Zarathiel stood in the central chamber of the Council's capital world, studying holographic displays that showed impossible readings. Her elegant features, unchanged by the decades since first contact with humanity, now carried worry lines that spoke of growing fear. The sensors must be malfunctioning, Princess Veltara declared from her position at the tactical display. The Elven Royal had grown into her arrogance over the years, becoming even more convinced of Council superiority. Nothing could generate energy signatures of this magnitude. Admiral Kevara's scales rippled with colors that indicated deep concern among her people. The draconian military commander had spent the intervening years building defenses against theoretical threats, but what approached from dark space exceeded her worst nightmares. The readings are consistent across all monitoring systems. Whatever is coming, it is real, and it is massive. Dr. Nixandra's crystalline form pulsed with rapid calculations as she processed the incoming data. The gravitational distortions match historical records from the archives of Ending. The pattern is identical to events recorded before the Great Silence. Silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. The Great Silence was legend, a time when entire star systems had vanished from the galactic rim. Most Council members treated it as mythology, stories told to frighten children. But the archives never lied, and the Crystalline Collective never forgot. The Devourers, Zarathiel whispered, speaking a name that had not been uttered in official chambers for centuries. They have returned. The first probe ship emerged from dark space like a nightmare given form. It was geometric impossibility, made real, angles that hurt to perceive and surfaces that reflected light in ways that violated physics. Where Council ships were built for beauty or function, this vessel existed purely to end other existence. The probe moved through the outer reach system with deliberate purpose, its sensors cataloging everything they encountered. Mining stations, research outposts, even automated beacon platforms were scanned and recorded with mechanical precision. Then, the real horror began. The conversion process started with the smallest objects first. Space debris, asteroids, abandoned satellites began to change. Their matter was reorganized at the molecular level, transformed into components for new devourer machines. What had once been natural rock became geometric nightmares that joined the growing fleet. Admiral Kevara watched the process through long-range sensors from her flagship, her hands clenched into fists that drew scales blood. Send the third. Fleet to intercept. All weapons free. Maximum destructive potential. The Draconian war fleet was the pride of Council military might. 50 ships of the line, each one capable of destroying a planet, moved to engage the single probe vessel. Their weapons were perfected over millennia of warfare, energy beams that could cut through any known material and missiles that could track targets across star systems. The battle lasted exactly 7 minutes. The probe ship absorbed the Council's energy weapons and converted them into additional power for its own systems. Their missiles were intercepted by defensive fields that existed partially outside normal spacetime. When the Council ships closed for physical ramming attacks, the probe simply phased through them while its own weapons carved through draconian armor like it was paper. 47 ships were destroyed outright. The remaining 3 limped away, with damage that would take years to repair, carrying recordings of humanity's first glimpse of true cosmic horror. "It is not possible," Princess Veltara said, staring at the battle recordings with disbelief. "Our weapons are the most advanced. In the galaxy, our shields can deflect anything." Dr. Nixandra's form flickered with rapid data processing. "The Devourer technology operates on principles we have forgotten or never learned. They manipulate the fundamental forces that bind matter together. Our weapons are like throwing stones at a hurricane." The probe completed its survey and vanished back into dark space, but the damage was done. Within hours, massive gravitational distortions announced the arrival of the main fleet. Hundreds of impossible ships emerged from the void between dimensions, each one larger than a Council dreadnought and infinitely more deadly. They moved through the galaxy's outer systems like a plague of mechanical locusts. Planets were stripped of all useful matter within hours. Space stations became raw materials for more ships. Even the very asteroids and cosmic dust were converted into additional Devourer units. Councillor Zarathiel stood before the emergency session of the full Council, addressing representatives of 100 species who had gathered in desperate hope of finding solutions. Her voice carried the weight of someone delivering a death sentence. "The ancient records are clear about Devourer capabilities and intentions. They do not negotiate, they do not retreat, and they do not leave survivors. Their goal is the complete conversion of all matter in this galaxy into more of themselves." An ambassador from the Crystal Gardens asked the question that haunted every mind present. "How do we stop them?" "The archives speak of only one successful resistance to the Devourers," Dr. Nixandra replied, her form dim with exhaustion from constant calculations. "A species that fought with tactics so unpredictable that Devourer computational systems could not adapt quickly enough to counter them." Admiral Kev Ara's remaining scales bristled with desperate hope. "Which species? Where are they now? Can we contact them for assistance?" The pause that followed lasted too long. Finally, Dr. Nixandra's voice carried the weight of terrible irony. "The species no longer exists. They were consumed by their own conflicts before the Devourers departed, but their methods are preserved in the deepest archives." Princess Veltara leaned forward eagerly. "What methods? What tactics did they use?" "Chaos," came the simple reply. "They fought without patterns, adapted constantly, and used strategies that even they could not predict in advance. The Devourers, being computational entities, require predictable behavior to model and counter. Faced with true randomness, they become significantly less effective." The chamber erupted in debate as species after species argued about implementation. How does one fight without patterns? How does one organize chaos? Most importantly, what military force in the current galaxy possessed the necessary unpredictability? Councillor Zarathiel found herself thinking of a conversation from decades past, remembering words spoken by a human captain during first contact. The woman had warned that underestimating humanity was historically a grave mistake. At the time, it had seemed like primitive bravado. Now, as Devourer fleets carved through the galaxy's most advanced civilizations like they were made of paper, those words took on new meaning. Humanity had been dismissed as chaotic and unpredictable, traits the Council had viewed as weaknesses. Perhaps they had been wrong about more than just human potential. As the debate raged around her, Zarathiel made a decision that would have been unthinkable months earlier. She activated her personal communicator and began composing a message to a world that the Council had dismissed as primitive and irrelevant. The irony was not lost on her that the galaxy's salvation might come from the very species they had worked so hard to keep isolated. But as reports arrived of another 3-star systems consumed by the Devourer advance, pride became a luxury none of them could afford. The transmission that would change everything began with words that burned like acid in Zarathiel's throat. "Earth Command, this is Councillor Zarathiel of the Galactic Council, requesting immediate assistance." Admiral Amy Brooks received the transmission while reviewing battle plans that she had hoped would never be needed. The message from Counselor Zarathiel played twice before the full implications sank in. The beings who had mocked humanity as primitive were now begging for help against an enemy that had shattered their most powerful fleets. Commander Lisa Kane stood beside her in the war room, deep beneath Luna Base, studying holographic displays that showed Devourer movement patterns. Throughout Council space, 15 years of secret observation had given humanity detailed knowledge of alien capabilities and weaknesses. Now that intelligence would be put to its ultimate test. "They are offering everything," Lisa said quietly, reviewing the terms that accompanied the Council's plea for assistance. Full membership, unrestricted access to all galactic territories, formal recognition of human sovereignty, and immediate cessation of all trade restrictions. Amy smiled grimly. 15 years ago, they offered us protected status like we were children who might hurt ourselves with grown-up toys. Now they want us to save them from something their grown-up toys cannot handle. The irony was sharp, but Amy took no pleasure in it. She had spent too many years preparing for this possibility to feel satisfaction at being proven right. The Devourer threat was real, and if they consumed the galaxy, Earth would eventually face them alone. "What are you thinking?" Lisa asked, recognizing the expression on her commander's face. "I am thinking about chaos theory and the difference between randomness and unpredictability," Amy replied. "The Devourers are computational entities. They model behavior patterns and develop counters based on statistical analysis. But human behavior has always defied statistical analysis." She activated the command console and began transmitting orders to secret bases throughout the solar system. "Alert all fleet commands. Operation Prometheus is now active. All hidden. Assets are to report battle-ready status within 12 hours. The response was immediate and overwhelming. From hidden bases in the asteroid belt, from camouflaged stations orbiting Jupiter's moons, from deep space platforms that existed only as sensor ghosts, humanity's true military might began to reveal itself. The fleet that emerged from concealment bore no resemblance to the primitive vessels that had attended first contact decades earlier. These ships were lean predators built for war, their hulls covered in adaptive armor that could reconfigure itself during battle. Their weapons were products of human innovation, driven by 15 years of isolation and necessity. Lisa took command of the advance force, while Amy coordinated the overall campaign from Earth. The human fleet moved through space with a grace that seemed almost organic, ships flowing around each other in patterns that looked chaotic but served specific tactical purposes. The first engagement occurred at the Nexus Junction, where Devourer forces were converting a major trade hub into additional ships. The human fleet arrived without warning, their stealth systems making them invisible until weapons range. Where Council forces had attacked in formation with predictable patterns, the humans struck like a school of piranhas. Individual ships broke formation at random intervals, attacked unexpected targets, then vanished back into the confusion of battle. No two ships used the same tactics. No attack followed a recognizable pattern. Lisa watched from her command ship as human fighters performed maneuvers that would have killed alien pilots. They used gravitational slingshots around space debris, fired weapons while spinning in ways that made targeting impossible, and coordinated attacks through methods that relied on intuition rather than calculation. The Devourer response was exactly what human strategists had predicted. The mechanical minds tried to model human behavior and failed. Every time they developed a counter to one tactic, the humans had already moved on to something completely different. "Target their connection nodes," Lisa ordered over the communications net. "Do not let them adapt as a network." Human weapons had been specifically designed to exploit Devourer weaknesses discovered through years of studying ancient records. Instead of trying to overpower their defenses, human ships targeted the quantum links that connected individual vessels to the collective intelligence. Each severed connection reduced the enemy's ability to coordinate responses. Isolated Devourer ships cut off from the collective became vulnerable to sustained assault. For the first time since their return, a Devourer fleet was forced to retreat. News of the victory spread through Council space like wildfire. Species that had watched their most powerful warships die like insects suddenly found hope in the knowledge that the ancient enemy could be defeated. Amy received the battle reports with satisfaction but no complacency. "One victory does not win a war," she told her staff officers. "The Devourers will adapt their tactics just as we have adapted ours. We need to stay ahead of their learning curve." The second battle came 3 days later, when a massive Devourer fleet moved against the Council's capital world. This time, the enemy was prepared for human tactics, their ships configured with improved defenses and enhanced coordination protocols. The humans responded by changing everything. Lisa's ships attacked in silence, their communication systems shut, down to prevent the Devourers from intercepting coordination signals. Instead, human pilots relied on hand signals, light patterns, and pure intuition to coordinate their assault. They used kamikaze attacks with empty ships controlled by artificial intelligence. They deployed weapons that fired backwards while retreating. They even used space debris as improvised projectiles, launching asteroids at targets with such precise timing that the impacts looked accidental. Most shocking of all, they targeted civilian areas that the Devourers were converting, forcing the enemy to choose between protecting their operations and pursuing the attackers. The mechanical minds, programmed to prioritize efficiency, could not understand an enemy that would sacrifice strategic advantage for emotional reasons. The battle raged for 18 hours before the Devourer fleet began to withdraw. They had lost more ships than in any engagement since their return, victims of tactics that no computational system could predict or counter, but the cost was high. Nearly half the human fleet was destroyed or damaged beyond repair. Amy stood in the command center watching casualty reports scroll past on her displays, each number representing people she had trained and commanded. Lisa's voice came through the communicator, tired but determined. "Admiral, we have proven that they can be beaten, but we cannot sustain losses at this rate indefinitely." Amy nodded grimly. "Understood, Commander. Phase 2 of Prometheus is now authorized. Release the war production protocols." Across Earth's solar system, automated factories that had been building in secret for 15 years shifted into maximum production mode. Shipyards that had been disguised as asteroid mining operations began assembling vessels at rates that would have seemed impossible to Council observers. Humanity had learned from their first contact with advanced civilization. They could not match alien technology for technology, but they could outproduce anyone in the galaxy. While the Council built ships to last centuries, humans built them to be replaced within months as technology improved. The third major engagement came when Amy herself led the combined human fleet against the Devourer mothership near the galactic core. The ancient vessel was larger than most space stations, its hull covered in weapons that could destroy planets and defenses that had resisted every Council attack. Amy's strategy was simple in concept, but impossible for any computational mind. To predict complete tactical chaos. Every ship in the human fleet received different orders. Some attacked directly while others retreated. Some targeted weapons while others went after life support systems that mechanical entities did not need. The key was that no human ship knew what any other human ship was doing. Even Amy did not know the complete battle plan because there was no complete battle plan. Each captain was authorized to act independently based on their own judgment and intuition. The result was a battle that looked like madness, but achieved perfect tactical coordination through pure human instinct. The Devourer mothership faced, with thousands of simultaneous attacks that followed no pattern it could understand, began to experience cascade failures in its computational matrix. Amy watched the ancient enemy die with mixed emotions. Victory felt good, but she knew that this was just the beginning. The galaxy was full of threats that the Council had never imagined, and humanity would need to be ready for all of them. As the last Devourer ship exploded in brilliant fire, Amy opened communications to the waiting Council fleet. "This is Admiral Brooks of Earth Command. The immediate threat has been neutralized. We are ready to discuss the new terms of humanity's membership in galactic civilization." The new Council chamber was built from the remains of the Devourer mothership, its transformed hull serving as a reminder of how close the galaxy had come to extinction. Councillor Zarathiel stood at the central podium, but the dynamics of power had shifted in ways that would have been unthinkable before the war. Admiral Amy Brooks occupied the seat that had once belonged to the High Elven representative, her weathered face bearing scars from the final battle that had saved civilization. Beside her sat Commander Lisa Kane, now promoted to Admiral and wearing the insignia of Earth's Galactic Defense Command. Princess Veltara, her arrogance burned away by months of watching her people's fleets die while humans succeeded where they had failed, served as the new High Arbiter. The position had always been ceremonial, but the war had taught the Council the value of leaders who understood the cost of survival. "The reconstruction reports show progress in all sectors," Zarathiel announced to the assembled representatives. "Human engineering teams have restored hyperlane networks in the Outer Rim, and the new defense platforms are operational. The defense platforms were pure human innovation, built using hybrid technology that combined Council knowledge with Earth's unique approach to problem-solving, where alien engineers built for permanence, humans built for adaptability. The platforms could reconfigure themselves to meet new threats, upgrade their weapon systems in real time, and coordinate responses across entire star systems." Dr. Nixandra's crystalline form pulsed with data as she presented the latest intelligence reports. Long-range sensors detect no signs of additional devourer activity. The threat appears to have been completely eliminated. Admiral Kevara, her scales now bearing honor markings earned while serving under human command during the war, nodded approvingly. "The new tactical doctrines have been distributed to all Council fleets. Our forces are training in unpredictable combat methods as developed by Earth Command." Amy listened to the reports with satisfaction, but no complacency. The galaxy was safer than it had been in 1,000 years, but she knew that safety was temporary. New threats would emerge eventually, and the Council needed to be ready for them. "Admiral Brooks," Veltara said formally, "Earth Command has requested permission to establish additional listening posts in the dark space regions beyond our galaxy. Do you believe such expansion is necessary?" Amy stood to address the chamber, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had earned the right to speak for galactic security. "The Devourers came from somewhere, and they may not have been the only threat in dark space. We need early warning systems if we hope to prevent another surprise attack." The vote was unanimous, something that would have been impossible in the old Council where species interests often conflicted. The war had taught them that survival required cooperation, and humanity had demonstrated the effectiveness of unified command. Lisa activated a holographic display showing the current state of galactic defenses. The new fleet composition includes vessels from all member species, but using human tactical principles, mixed crews, unpredictable formations, and adaptive strategies that no computational enemy can model effectively. The transformation went deeper than military doctrine. Human approaches to science, engineering, and exploration had spread throughout Council space. Alien scientists worked alongside human researchers, learning to value innovation over tradition. Engineers from a dozen species collaborated on projects that pushed the boundaries of known technology. Most significantly, the rigid hierarchy that had dominated galactic civilization for millennia was dissolving. Species that had been locked into specific roles for thousands of years were discovering new possibilities through contact with human flexibility. Zarathiel had perhaps changed the most of all. The elegant elf who had once dismissed humanity, as primitive now worked closely with human advisors, learning to value chaos as a tool for progress rather than a threat to stability. "The cultural exchange programs continue to show positive results," she reported. "Human concepts of rapid adaptation and continuous improvement are being integrated into educational systems across 47 worlds." Amy smiled at that news. The victory over the Devourers had been military, but the real transformation of galactic civilization was social. Humans had not conquered the galaxy through force, but through demonstrating better ways of thinking and acting. "What is the status of the colonial expansion programs?" Amy asked. Lisa consulted her data tablet. 17 new colony worlds have been established using joint human-alien teams. The mixed settlements are showing remarkable innovation in adapting to hostile environments. The colonial program represented everything that humanity brought to the galaxy. Instead of the slow, careful expansion that characterized alien colonization, human teams moved fast and adapted to whatever they found. They terraformed worlds that aliens had dismissed as impossible, established thriving settlements in systems that Council surveys had marked as uninhabitable. More importantly, they did it with volunteers from multiple species working together. Humans provided leadership and tactical innovation, elves contributed centuries of accumulated wisdom, draconians offered strength and endurance, and crystalline beings brought advanced technical knowledge. The Outer Rim survey teams have identified 3 potential threats that require investigation, Dr. Nixandra announced, her form brightening with excitement at the prospect of new challenges. Amy nodded approvingly. One lesson from the Devourer War was that passive defense was never enough. Threats had to be identified and neutralized before they could organize effective attacks. Approved, she said without hesitation. Send mixed exploration fleets with full tactical authority. If they find something dangerous, I want them equipped to handle it immediately. The meeting continued for several more hours, covering everything from trade agreements to research priorities. But the real business of the session was symbolic rather than practical. The galaxy had new leadership, and that leadership was human. As the session ended and representatives began filing out, Veltara approached Amy privately. The elven princess, who had once laughed at human pretensions, now wore an expression of genuine respect. "Admiral," she said quietly, "I owe you an apology that is 15 years overdue. When we first met your species, we saw only your violence and chaos. We failed to understand that those same qualities would one day save us all." Amy studied the elf's face, seeing sincerity where once there had been only arrogance. "Princess, your people gave us something more valuable than you realize. You gave us a goal to work toward and the motivation to exceed your expectations." "You certainly succeeded in that," Veltara replied with a rueful smile. "But I wonder, what will you do now that the galaxy is safe and humanity has proven its worth?" Amy walked to the chamber's main viewport, looking out at the stars that now fell under human protection. Ships moved through space in the distance, vessels from dozens of worlds working together under Earth's coordination. "We will do what humans have always done," she said finally. "We will push forward into the unknown, explore new possibilities, and prepare for whatever challenges await us. The galaxy is vast, and we have barely begun to discover its secrets." Far below, on the surface of the Council's capital world, children from a dozen species played together in parks that had been rebuilt using human engineering principles. They spoke in languages that blended alien words with human concepts, grew up thinking of diversity as strength rather than weakness. In the distance, construction crews worked on new buildings that combined the elegance of elven architecture with the functionality of human design. The galaxy was becoming something new, shaped by the species that had once been dismissed as too young and chaotic to matter. Amy watched it all with the satisfaction of someone who had lived to see impossible dreams become reality. The Council had once mocked Earth and predicted that humans would destroy themselves within a few centuries. Instead, humanity had saved the galaxy and was now leading it toward a future that no single species could have achieved alone. The stars held infinite possibilities, and for the first time in galactic history, there were beings ready to embrace those possibilities with the courage to chaos and the wisdom to adapt. Humanity had come home to the stars, and the universe would never be the same.